Within the next minutes, you will understand how the United States government, in coordination with the most powerful financial institutions on Earth, has already begun a multi-trillion-dollar operation to systematically wipe out its $37 trillion debt. And they are doing it not by raising taxes or cutting spending, but by weaponizing two assets you would never suspect. Let's start with a story you can feel in your bones. Imagine it's 1923 Germany. You are a middle-class doctor, a man of respect and education. You've worked your entire life and you've saved 100,000 Reichsmarks. It's a fortune, enough to buy a beautiful home and provide for your family for decades. You have it tucked away in a savings account, your ticket to a secure future. But then something begins to happen. The government is printing money, not just to spend, but to pay down the impossible war reparations from the Great War. At first, prices creep up. A loaf of bread goes from a few marks to a dozen. You're concerned, but your life savings are still a large number. Then, the creep becomes a sprint. That loaf of bread costs thousands, then millions of marks. Your 100,000 life savings can now barely buy a newspaper. And then the final, soul-crushing blow. Your entire life's work, that 100,000 marks, can't even buy a single postage stamp. It is not just money that has been destroyed. It is your future, your security, your very standing in society, all vaporized. The government, however, had successfully erased its own domestic debt. It was the greatest heist in German history, and the victims were its own people. This is the template. This is the playbook, and the United States is now holding a freshly printed copy. The claim sounds insane, we know. A government known for its suspicion of crypto is secretly using it to save itself? It defies logic. Until you understand the true nature of sovereign debt and the one brutal tool every empire eventually reaches for. The tool is called a stealth default, and it is the most reliable method in history for a government to escape its financial obligations without formally declaring bankruptcy. The proof is etched into the gravestones of every major empire. Let's look at Rome. When the Roman Empire found itself drowning in debt from endless military campaigns and the dole for its massive population, Emperor Diocletian didn't raise taxes. He debased the denarius. He systematically reduced the silver content in the coinage from nearly 100% to less than 5%. The coins looked the same, they had the same face value, but their intrinsic worth was gutted. The state paid its debts with these worthless coins, effectively erasing its obligations. The savings of the Roman middle class and the soldiers paid in this clipped currency were wiped out. The empire saved itself, but it destroyed its own economic foundation, a critical wound that never healed.
The pattern is terrifyingly consistent. Revolutionary France introduced the assignat, a currency backed by confiscated church lands. The government printed it into oblivion to pay its bills, leading to hyperinflation so severe that people were literally using the money as wallpaper. The French state erased its debt, but it collapsed into the terror. And we can't forget the Weimar story we just lived through. In every single case, the mechanism is the same. The governing power creates a monetary illusion, a new system of value, and then systematically transfers the real wealth to itself by inflating away the old debts. The United States is not inventing a new playbook. It is simply updating an ancient, brutal script for the digital age. The $37 trillion debt is not a problem to be solved with austerity. It is a tumor to be burned out with the fire of inflation, and you are holding the kindling. This brings us to the modern magic trick. How do you inflate away debt when you are the world's reserve currency? You can't just hyperinflate the dollar overnight. The global system would shatter and the empire would end by morning. So you need a controlled demolition. You need a new architecture of value to exist alongside the dollar, and you need to guide the world's wealth into it slowly before you pull the plug on the old system. This is where the plot gets truly fascinating. For the last several years, the narrative has been one of conflict, the old guard of gold bugs versus the new anarchists of crypto. This is a staged fight, a financial WWE. In reality, the U.S. establishment is quietly positioning itself to control and co-opt both sides of this new monetary system. Think about it. After decades of telling everyone gold was a barbarous relic, what has the U.S. government done? It holds the largest gold reserves on the planet and has never sold a single ounce. In fact, there is compelling evidence that its actual holdings are far greater than publicly stated. It is the ultimate gold whale, sitting on a pile of eternal value while talking down its importance.
And then there's crypto. The story you're told is of a war between Satoshi's dream and the regulators. But look closer. While public figures decry it, the most powerful institutions are diving in head first. BlackRock, Fidelity, State Street, the very arteries of the Wall Street establishment are now the leading providers of Bitcoin ETFs. They're not fighting Bitcoin, they are financializing it, packaging it, and making it palatable for the trillions of dollars in institutional capital that they control. The U.S. government, through its regulatory arms, is not banning it. It is creating the rules of the road, effectively legitimizing it as a new asset class. Why? Because they need a new digital non-dollar denominated asset to absorb the massive capital flight that will occur when confidence in the dollar begins to wane. They are building the lifeboats before they scuttle the ship. So let's connect the dots for the ultimate emotional gut punch. The plan is not one single event, it is a process. It begins with the continued massive issuance of U.S. Treasury debt, much of it bought by the Federal Reserve with newly created dollars. This devalues the dollar slowly, steadily increasing the pressure. Then they offer the solution. A new digital monetary system. Central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, will be sold to you as a modern convenience, a way to fight crime and distribute stimulus checks efficiently. But their real purpose is control. And to back this new digital dollar, to give it the credibility the failing paper dollar will have lost, what will they use? They will use a hybrid basket of assets. They will use gold. And they will use Bitcoin. Not the Bitcoin you and I can buy today, but the Bitcoin held by the ETFs and the futures markets they control. They will declare that 1 unit of the new digital dollar is backed by X amount of gold and Y amount of Bitcoin. In that single, breathtaking moment, the $37 trillion in old US dollar debt becomes instantly worthless. It is denominated in the old currency, the one they have just replaced. The heist is complete. Your life savings, your bonds, your cash in the bank, if it's in the old dollars, will be like the German doctor's Reichsmarks. A collector's item, a memory of a bygone era. The government's debt? Wiped clean. They will have transitioned the world to a new system backed by assets they accumulated quietly for years, and left the carcass of the old dollar and its associated debts for the historians to dissect. We have just exposed the silent opening moves of the greatest financial transition in human history. We've seen how the U.S. is building its golden and digital lifeboats. But this leads to the most urgent question of your life. What happens next? Now we will descend into the chaos of the transition itself. We will reveal the 3 specific phases of the coming monetary reset, identify the precise trigger event that will signal the final countdown, and show you the 5 brutal ways most people will see their wealth completely erased. This is not just about understanding the plan. It is about surviving its execution. So, now you understand the architecture of the invisible heist. The U.S. isn't just stumbling into a debt crisis. It is orchestrating a controlled demolition of the old monetary system, with gold and crypto as the pillars of the new one. But knowing the blueprint is only half the battle. The other half is surviving the explosion. What happens when the switch is finally flipped? The transition will not be orderly. It will be the most chaotic, wealth-destroying, and then wealth-creating period of our lifetimes. It will be a tale of two societies, one that is prepared and will see its wealth multiply, and one that is oblivious and will be financially wiped off the map. To understand what's coming, we must look at a story of a man who saw the cracks in the system and positioned himself not just to survive, but to become one of the richest men in history. Imagine Weimar Germany, 1919. The war is lost, the reparations are impossible, and the currency is beginning its death spiral. Most people are in denial, clutching their paper marks, believing the government will fix things. But one man, the industrialist Hugo Steins, saw the truth. He understood that the government's only way out was to inflate. So, he did something that seemed insane to everyone else. He took out massive loans in the rapidly depreciating paper currency. He wasn't borrowing to hold cash. He was borrowing to buy real, tangible things that would hold their value. He bought coal mines, shipping companies, newspapers, and forests. He was buying the productive assets of Germany itself. As the hyperinflation accelerated, the real value of his debts vaporized. The millions he owed became worth less than a loaf of bread. But the coal mines, the ships, the factories, they were still there, producing real value. In the span of just a few years, Steins went from a successful businessman to the head of a colossal conglomerate that controlled a staggering 20% of German industry. He prospered not in spite of the collapse, but because of it. He was a master of the greatest financial secret. During a monetary reset, you must flee the dying system and anchor yourself in the emerging one. The United States is not in hyperinflation yet, but the preconditions are identical. The massive debt, the political inability to stop spending, the creation of new money. The modern-day Hugo Steins are already positioning themselves, using cheap dollars to acquire Bitcoin, productive companies, and real assets. The question is, are you? The trigger for the final phase will not be a slow decline. It will be a single, catastrophic event that shatters global confidence in the US dollar's ability to ever repay its debts. This is what we call the Treasury Cliff. It's not the debt-ceiling political theater. It's the moment a major foreign power, or a coalition of them, decides to stop rolling over their US Treasury holdings. Let's give this a face. Imagine you are the finance minister of China or Saudi Arabia. You've been a loyal buyer of US debt for decades, the very thing that has funded the American empire. But you look at the $37 trillion debt, the political chaos, and the constant threats of weaponizing the dollar, and a cold realization dawns. You are holding a ticking bomb. The math no longer works. So you make a quiet, calculated decision to stop buying new treasuries. In fact, you start to slowly, carefully drain your existing holdings, not in a fire sale, but in a steady trickle, swapping them for gold, for commodities, for anything real. Now imagine this not as one nation, but as a coordinated move by the BRICS Plus bloc. The effect would be instantaneous and terrifying. The yield on US treasuries would skyrocket as the government is forced to find new buyers. Mortgage rates would explode past 15%. The US government's interest payments would surpass its entire military budget. This is the point of no return. This is the emergency they need to declare the old system dead. And this is when the government will unveil its solution with a mix of fear and false hope. The president will give a prime-time address, somber and resolute. He will speak of a global economic emergency, of malicious actors trying to destabilize the world, and of the need for a bold new solution to ensure stability for the American people. He will announce the Great Dollar Reset. He will introduce the digital dollar, a central bank digital currency. And to give it immediate, unshakable credibility, he will announce that it is backed by a basket of strategic assets, including, for the first time, a portion of the nation's immense gold reserves and, shockingly, a stake in digitized, regulated monetary assets like Bitcoin held in the BlackRock and Fidelity ETFs. The press will call it brilliant. The politicians will call it necessary. For you, it will be Financial Judgment Day, because in that same speech, he will announce the voluntary conversion period. For 1 month, you will be able to convert your old US dollars into new digital dollars at a 1-to-1 rate. It will sound fair, but it's a trap. This is where the 5 brutal wealth erasure mechanisms kick in, and most people will fall for at least one of them. The first is the invisible burn. If you hold cash in a bank, it will automatically be converted to the new digital currency. But the government, to fight inflation, will impose holding limits or tiered exchange rates for large sums. Your life savings above a certain threshold might only be convertible at a 10-to-1 or even a 100-to-1 rate. The second is the pension trap. Your 401k and IRA, stuffed with old dollar-denominated bonds and stocks, will be frozen or forcibly converted into government-guaranteed bonds in the new system, offering negative real returns for decades. The third is the capital control cage. You will not be able to easily move the new digital dollar abroad. Your wealth will be locked within the digital borders, subject to every whim of the government, which can program the money to expire if not spent, or block its use for certain non-approved purchases. The fourth is the debt amnesty illusion. They will claim the debt has been wiped clean, but it's a semantic trick. The $37 trillion in old dollar debt is gone, yes, but it is immediately replaced with new digital dollar debt, which will be even more inescapable because it will be digitally tracked and enforced. The fifth and final erasure is the most insidious, the psychological anchor. Most people are so conditioned to trust the government and the system that they will go along with it, believing the authorities have their best interests at heart. They will accept the new digital chains because they are presented with a smile and a promise of safety, just like the Germans in 1923 kept accepting worthless marks because it was the official currency. But for those who see the matrix, this reset is not a doom, it is the opportunity of a millennium. This is your call to action, your moment of inspiration. You have been given the rarest of gifts, a glimpse of the future before it happens. You now know the playbook. You know the government is accumulating gold. You know the Wall Street establishment is accumulating Bitcoin. Your mission is clear. You must become a mini-sovereign state yourself. You must do what they are doing. You must move a portion of your wealth out of the legacy system and into the assets that will form the foundation of the new one. This doesn't mean selling everything and moving to a bunker. It means a strategic, disciplined allocation. It means owning physical gold and silver held outside the banking system as your ultimate insurance policy. It means owning Bitcoin, your stake in the decentralized, non-sovereign digital gold that they are being forced to co-opt. It means owning productive land and assets that generate real value, just like Hugo Stennis. This is how you turn the government's greatest heist into your greatest fortune. You don't have to be a victim of history. You can be a student of it, and you can be one of the few who emerges on the other side, not impoverished, but empowered. The storm is coming, but while everyone else is praying for the storm to pass, you will have learned to dance in the rain, and you will own the dance floor.